And we are back with another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. Today, I am very happy to be joined once again by my friend and yours, Gordo Gambles, will be returning to the show once again. And we're also bringing along a first-time guest, my man Chance Wagers. This man personally is somebody I go to for my football wagers, and he's also somebody I love to kick around these fights with. The self-proclaimed best handicapper in the South, and we're very happy to have him on the show today. So without further ado, guys, we're going to get this show underway. We've got a betting breakdown for Jose Aldo and Rob Font, UFC Vegas 44 on tap for you. Just want to let you know as we get started, this show, all my content is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you guys want to get involved, all the information you need is in the link below. All you need to know is that it's the simplest DFS format out there. You don't have to play against a million other people. It's just you against their projection. If you feel like you've got value on the projection, go ahead and play it. And, you know, I'm going to take a look here at the PrizePicks lines as we go for some of these fights and see if there's anything appealing to me from a PrizePicks perspective. But again, all the information you need is in that information box below. Without further ado, let's bring in the stars of our show today. We got an excellent panel. My man Gordo and I have been putting in that work for a while now, and it's always a pleasure to bring him back on the show. And looks like we've either got a haircut or he's hiding that hair beautifully in the fresh hat today. So Gordo, my man, welcome back. Looking good, brother.
Oh, thank you for noticing. No, I'm super pumped to be back. This week off has done, I think, awesome good, but I am more excited than ever. An absolutely beautiful card. Lots of favorites around in this house too. And honestly, the only bad thing about this card is we got no Canadians for me, but that's okay. I'll take care of that today. I got myself a poutine and some Molson to the side. So no, I'm ready to go. Super happy to be here. So let's do this thing, man.
Awesome, brother. Love to hear that. And my man Chance Wagers. People have been waiting for this. You know, Chance hasn't gotten on many of these streams, but he's very active on social media. You guys can find him on there as well. And guys, Chance is a very smart guy, and he's putting real dollars behind these wagers. I've seen the bet slips myself. So welcoming aboard a high-stakes player today, Chance Wagers. Welcome to the building, my friend. How you doing?
Dude, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing quite well, and we're happy to have you, my friend. So as we're going to get this card started, guys, we're just going to say off the top, shout out to all the people who've been waiting. We got people in the chat. Chad says, let's get it popping. Appreciate you. Bout Better says, what's up? One of my favorite cappers out there. I appreciate you for real, my man. B. Rizzle says, I can't get off the fence on the main and the co-main. Can't blame you, dude. It's a great freaking fight card. So let's not belabor it, boys. We'll start from the bottom. We've got Luis Smolka taking on Vince Morales at 135 pounds. Smolka, the divisional mainstay. Vince Morales, guy who's fought, you know, a decent level of competition, but has had a pretty tough time, all things considered, in the UFC, but been showing some gradual improvement. So a lot of people I've seen taking the plunge on Vince Morales here. You know, we've got my man B Rizzle in the chat says he's all over Smolka in this spot. So I'm going to kick it over to my man Gordo first. It seems like he's on the Smolka spot as well here. And Gordo, tell us how you feel about this matchup.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I do my own DFS breakdowns. I'm a big DFS player, and my core play this week on the channel is Luis Smolka. I think he's very undervalued at this spot. I think he's a lot better than Morales in a lot of places, and I think if it gets to the mat at all, it's probably game over. I think Smolka's ground game is very, very underappreciated in this market right now, and at the same time, I think he can hold his own on the feet very, very well. I'm not really a fan of Morales' all-around game, especially to level Smolka's. I think Smolka's a step above. Smolka has the experience advantage. I think he's got some good volume on the feet. He's got some good combination on there as well. But I'm leaning towards a sub. The official prediction will be a sub. I think this guy is better on the ground. I think it's only going to take him a couple exchanges to really get him out of there. I think that while Morales is a tough customer, and I think that he's doing pretty well for himself. Well, not recently UFC. I do think he has skills, but I think that this is going to be Smolka all day. I'm all over it. Biggest play of the entire card, if I'm being completely honest. I just think that I got him at minus 135. I'm really liking that spot. Morales did look great in the stills. I see that in the chat, but this is a spot where I really do. I do like my boy Luis Smolka here.
Fair enough, brother. And I'm going to kick this one over to my man Chance. Chance, do you feel the same way? Are you liking Smolka in this spot? Are you looking to play a dog shot? What are you looking at in this fight? Are you looking to pass on this one?
Yeah, so honestly, I pretty much agree with everything Gordo said. I think Smolka's pretty reliable to come forward. He should land more volume. And also, like Gordo was saying, the grappling pass should be there. Morales hits kind of hard, and he's kind of athletic, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Smolka pretty much has him covered everywhere. I played minus 140, so I got a little bit worse of a line, but I still think, I mean, that's well worth a shot. I mean, Smolka's just better everywhere. Morales is just, I mean, he's okay, I guess. Like, he doesn't really do anything I like that much. Smolka should roll if it hits the mat, but his wrestling isn't that good. So, yeah, I like Smolka here.
Fair enough, boys. And yeah, this is a fight that I didn't end up taking a play on, as a matter of fact, because I was kind of concerned about Smolka's durability starting to slip a little bit. I didn't like the visual of him getting taken down by Quinones. And, I just feel like his game is starting to just have a little bit of a decline because he's kind of a lead with your face kind of fighter. He likes to get in the pocket and get into wild brawls. And, like Chance mentioned, I do think that if you're going to talk about the positives on the Vince Morales side, it has to be that he's got a little bit of power. He's willing to throw some hands. And I think that, as Smolka starts to, accumulate those miles, that wear, that damage, this could be a spot where Morales catches him, chin checks him, or if he's able to hurt him, early on, he might be able to dictate exchanges as the fight goes on. But largely, I agree with you guys. I think Smolka's a deserved favorite here, but I just couldn't get on board. I kind of missed the line movement. Credit to you guys, both of you guys right now. If the line stays the same, will have beaten, the best available price. Minus 145 is currently the best tag available.
Dude,
That's on
I will
DraftKings.
say real quick. Looking at the fight though, I was kind of closest to playing Morales KO like at plus 550, plus 600 ish. Like I think if you're gonna bet Morales, like you might as well take him by KO. Like I don't think there's much value for him to win minutes. So I think if he wins the fight, like he probably knocks him out. And I think Smolka money line's probably the best bet in the fight, but second best is probably Morales KO, which I know sounds kind of weird to most people, like saying I'm on Smolka, but Morales KO is probably the second best bet. But I mean, value wise, like plus 600 was pretty wide.
I totally hear you. And again, it's plus 550 now, best available. Most books are hanging plus 400, plus 450, so pretty wide disparity there from plus 600, like you mentioned. So I totally agree with you. And guys, that's what we always got to think about here is these fights are, not something that you could predict perfectly every time. So what you want to try and do is understand the matchup. What's most likely to happen? What's the most likely win condition for both sides? And, if Morales is most likely front loaded on that KO as his win condition, it's probably better to play him small at plus 550 than it is to play him, for a decent bet at the money line price. So just something to consider. But I'm not going to get involved on that fight. I've heard very sharp guys that I respect on both sides of it. And I don't have the strongest read myself. And for that reason, I'm just going to pass and move on to the next fight. And the next fight is one that I'm not going to be passing on. It's a fight that I'm going to have a wager on. So excited to talk about a lightweight matchup between Claudio Puelles and Chris Gritzmacher. And, I got to give credit to John Stargarian from the Club and Sub podcast. When I was able to grits the field with Chad and Hellinger when everybody else was on the other side, I tried to coin that term, because John, when he was fighting Rafa Garcia, everybody and their mother, I think myself included, had just a small poke on that Rafa Garcia inside the distance, something. And Grits really showed that, he's not just a fragile guy. He can work through some adversity. And, ultimately, I thought he was able to show some decent skills in all positions in that fight. And I don't rate Rafa Garcia as that great a fighter. And I still was impressed overall with Gritzmacher when he doesn't get nuked. He's not a terrible fighter. And Claudio Puelles on the other side, I kind of thought that Jordan Leavitt would have a better time with him. And I thought that on the feet he was doing okay. He got out grappled there, but I really didn't think he made him pay for a lot of the grappling transitions, and he obliged him in a grappling based fight for large portions. And I think overall Leavitt's just not a very good fighter, or at least not very well developed yet. I think he has some interesting skills, but he kind of has a raw and weirdly put together game. So I think that's a winnable fight for Puelles, but I was expecting more improvements, honestly, after the time away. And so for lack of improvements, because I don't think he hits that hard, and because I think Grits is kind of a guy you want to knock out to beat, I'm going to be on Grits on the money line here at minus 102. And yeah, that's my thoughts on the fight. It's not one that I'm not going to be putting a 10 unit play on this. This isn't a max bet for me, but this is a pretty decent spot for Grits in my opinion. And at that slight dog price, minus 102, I'm going to have to take that. Gordo, we're going to kick this one over to you and see if you agree or disagree on this matchup.
Well, I came into it. I looked at it originally, and I was planning to be on the same side as you with Groots there. But I do my tape study and I look into it. And whereas that Leave It fight was pretty, like I see in the chat, slow motion by round 2. It wasn't the best fight. Leave It didn't showcase the best skills. I do think that getting Puelles at his opening line at plus 110 was the bet you could make. If I saw that line out there, I'd probably bet Puelles right there, just because when you look into it, we weren't taking Rafa Garcia because Rafa Garcia was that high. It's also that we were kind of fading Roots after that huge knockout loss recently too. Whereas I do think that he showed a good showing of himself against Rafa Garcia. He got dropped in that first round. I'm not saying Puelles is going to do that, but you look at it from the other side as well. Puelles is going to be able to hold his own on the feet. I do give the slight advantage to Grits. And then if you look at it on the ground, Grits has been choked out 3 of his 4 losses, right? It's a spot where I think Puelles might have the edge. If I was going to bet plus money, I'd be all over, but I missed my shot. So for that reason, I'm passing. I think that the fight is lined perfectly. It's a 50-50 fight. I think on the feet, Grits' boxing combination has the opportunity to do really, really well there. But I think that there's always that possibility of a sub. I may bet Puelles sub myself because I do think that's an opportunity. I just don't know how good Puelles is wrestling to get it there. At the same time, though, I'm not rushing to the window to bet Grits at all, just because whereas I do think he's a bit better on the feet, not that much sharper. When it comes to a DraftKings perspective, 8K for Puelles, I'm not minding that too much, so I might just play Puelles in DraftKings and leave it at that. I don't mind your stab. Any of these fighters at plus money is a good look because they both have very distinct paths to victory, and I see them both winning their respective ways.
Fair enough, my brother. I will just mention, as I kick this over to my man Chance, it's one thing to get submitted by Davi Ramos. It's one thing to get submitted by Chaz Skelly. It would be a whole different can of worms, in my opinion, to get submitted by, I believe, brown belt Claudio Puelles. Davi Ramos is like a black belt world champion. So I do think that there's a little bit of a level gap there. And in addition, go back and look at that Lozon fight where Joe Lozon, credible submission artist, and Chris Grutzmacher is able to get the better of him. So I think, I just wouldn't count out Grits. I think the guys that have been able to get the better of him from a submission perspective, I think they've needed several takedowns. It's been like longer, protracted fights. And Puelles just doesn't seem like the, big heart guy to me. But maybe I'll be proven wrong this weekend. So Chance, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, Grits seems like more of a fighter to me, to be honest, between the two. But I really think they both just kind of suck. But if I had to pick, I'd say Grits, just because I think he's more of a fighter between the two. Like you said, I'm not saying Puelles is a quitter or anything like that, or that whatever. But yeah, you got to go Grits. I really have no opinion here. They both just kind of suck, in my opinion.
I totally hear you. I just think you got to finish Grits in order to beat him, really. And I'm not as sold that Puelles will do that. That's why I wanted to play it at evens. I don't think that, Grits is like minus 500 or something, but I think that, I could definitely see minus 175, especially if this turns into a fight that's mostly fought on the feet. But even in like transition, I just think that Grits will throw strikes and try and make him pay, elbows against the cage if he's trying to take him down, things like that, where, if you just grapple, then the guy who's a better grappler is like destined to win. But if you force him to strike, even in grappling situations, it can make people, back out of the clinch as well. So something to consider, but we can move right along, folks. We've got a lot of great fights on this card to break down. Next up is Alonzo Menefield versus William Knight. To give just a tiny bit of background on this fight, my stablemate at Renzo Gracie Warwick, Anthony Malguti, learn the name now if you watch jiu-jitsu matches. The guy's an absolute stud. He will make waves one day, but he was supposed to grapple William Knight, and William Knight had to pull out of that match. And so we suspected it was for, a bigger opportunity. And so now you see William Knight is going from, with all due respect, like a local grappling match, on the circuit to a UFC fight here against Alonzo Menefield. And I do think overall, it's a pretty well-matched fight. There's a reason this fight's been made several times. Both guys kind of look like action figures. Both guys have fairly raw MMA games, but have showed some promise, certainly athletic upside for both of them. And I actually think both have shown developments too over the course of their career. They're not just the same product that they started out as. That being said, I think Alonzo Menefield is further along on that development process. And so I understand why he's a favorite here. Haven't made any bets on this fight yet, but I kind of have a feeling that Alonzo's going to knock him out. I think that he's just a little bit cleaner in terms of his punching mechanics. I think that, William Knight sometimes is like a little rush forward to get to the clinch with reckless abandon. And I think that somebody like Alonzo could make him pay for that. I like to see the leg kicks from Alonzo in his last fight. I think that would be a critical part of the game plan here. But I also am not sold that William Knight is going to be able to just like work him in the grappling here. I could see that happening as the fight wears on if he gets tired. But I think that early in the fight, Alonzo Menefield's probably not going to be easy to grapple here and may have some takedown upside of his own because William Knight kind of got taken down over and over with a step outside trip easily against Daun Jung. And Daun Jung has proven to be, a pretty talented fighter within the division, much to my chagrin. But I think overall, I favor Alonzo Menefield here at probably a minus 200 or so clip. But maybe I'm crazy, man. Maybe I'm underselling William Knight's abilities in this fight. I just think that he's, a lot more raw at this point.
You're not.
In his development. I love it, Chance. Gordo, how do you feel?
Yeah, well, biggest thing about this fight is these guys are absolutely massive. Let me just point that out. If I ever looked like one of those guys one day, man, life would be a lot easier. They look huge. But this is one of those spots where these are two guys I typically like to fade. I have fell down the well of betting William Knight recently to not a very good extent. But this is a spot where I'm not a big fan of Menefield. You couldn't really pay me to bet on him. He's just not very trustworthy in my opinion. His cardio's not great. His abilities in the first place, I know he's powerful, but it's just one of these guys who I'm just a big fan of fading, and I'm not going to have the opportunity to do it here as much, unfortunately. This fight was booked the first time. It was minus 110, minus 110. I had the opportunity. I was going to bet Menefield in that spot, but the way the line is now, I just can't get behind it. I think that over the course of the 3 rounds, if William Knight just keeps abusing him in the clinch, or not abusing him, but keeps getting it to the clinch, making him work, try to wrestle him, up, down, strikes in the clinch, it's probably going to tire out Menefield. Like I said before, his gas tank's not great. I think that Knight does have the cardio advantage. But at the same time, Knight looked pretty durable to me when his loss to Daun Jung. He got beat up a lot, and yet he still looked pretty good. I just see this, for some reason, I have this image in my head of Menefield putting a beating on him for 2 rounds, and then round 3 come along and Menefield gassing out, Knight taking over, which is something I just don't want any part of. Another pass fight for me, unfortunately. I am a fan of Knight on DraftKings with that lower price tag, but not a fight I'm just going all over to bet. But I'm going to pick Knight just to be a little fun here.
Well, just to give you a little bit of credence there, I think it was Dan Tom MMA was talking about the fact that he thought that this was a fight where, Menefield would be winning until he's not. And I definitely have tried to identify those opportunities in the past. And I do think Chad hit the nail on the head. This could definitely be a good live bet opportunity. But I would also just mention, that was like a Bruno Silva, Andrew Sanchez. We had a lot of data points of Andrew Sanchez like collapsing in that 3rd round. I just would like to see a little bit more data on Alonzo, falling apart to bank on that narrative in the fight, especially at a favorite tag. But that's just me. I definitely see your argument though, Gordo. Chance, how do you feel about this one? Seems like you might be on board with me here.
Yeah, I think William Knight's pretty bad, man. I think if you're betting William Knight, like pre-fight, you're probably brain dead. You probably have CTE, played high school football. I mean, why? Like, what does William Knight do that makes you want to bet on him at not plus 200? Does he do anything well at all? I mean, he gets the shit beat out of him pretty well, I guess, right?
He's pretty durable, I think. Is
he's got a fat ass.
Even in the fight where he got stopped, he didn't really get stopped. He was still awake.
Completely agree, and that is exactly why I have way too much money on this fight. I took I took some Menefield for about a unit and a half. I took Menefield decision plus 300 at BetOnline, and I took Ghost to decision plus 140 for a couple units. Menefield's been pretty patient his past couple times out, or at least last time against Ed Herman. Granted, Ed Herman sucks. So is William Knight. So yeah, I think he should come out, be a little bit more patient, chop the leg of William Knight. And I think they probably end up just staring at each other. Like, we see these fights like here and there where like it's like two big guys that look like they could kill anything that walks, and they just stare at each other. And I think this is like a classic example of one of those. Like, so yeah, I mean, William Knight just sucks. I'm not betting on William Knight. So yeah, give me Menefield. I kind of got in a little bit late, like minus 145, but I still think he's playable, honestly. Like when I initially looked at this, I thought the line would be like Menefield minus 200. I mean, he's been overhyped since he came into the UFC, and I was kind of shocked to see him only minus 145 against a guy like Knight. But I mean,
he was like minus 300 against Paul Craig. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of surprised by, and he knocked him out. So it's like I'm kind of surprised by the results as well. You know, I think the OSP fight definitely cooled people on his prospect, but it's like, you know, and I bet on him there, so it hurt my feelings. But I kind of was, you know, like OSP is a little tricky. I kind of thought he was getting fucked up the whole fight, and then just caught him stepping back. And, you know, OSP, he's like a southpaw type guy. He's like weird angles. I just felt like that fight wasn't fully reflective of what Alonzo can do. So I don't know, man. I feel like this is definitely a weird line, but last time they were going to fight, it was like a pick 'em too. So I really don't know what to make of this one, man. I'm probably going to end up passing.
Let me just say, man, at Pick'em, sure, take Menefield. He's not trustworthy enough, but the most important part about this fight is William Knight's got an absolute dumpy, man. I don't care. He's got a fat ass, and it'll be a good fight for as long as it lasts.
Well, hopefully it lasts.
Cheers to that.
All 3 rounds.
Oh yeah, sure. The thing is too, I think that if you are holding that ticket, that William Knight's a smart enough guy. I think that Alexa Kamer fight, he did exactly what he had to, and I think that if he knows he's losing, round 3, he's going to go balls to the walls probably. And if Menefield is tired, I'd be a little bit scared, but I think you're on the right side here. I'm just shooting the shit around, but I do think you're on the right side.
Chad also makes the great point to never bet on or against OSP.
That OSP fight was like one of my biggest DraftKings takedowns. I was huge on OSP that night, and I will forever love him. But you're right. Keep going.
Facts. All right, on to the next one, guys. We've got Mallory Martin taking on Cheyenne Velismus. A lot of people are talking about, you know, the external circumstances here. This is just, you know, not a fight that I have tremendous interest in. You know, I watched back some Mallory Martin footage. On the regional, she looked like a pretty dominant grappler. I think she's been a little bit exposed as, you know, pretty good hammer, not a great nail. I think that if she gets on top, you know, I don't see why she couldn't hold down Cheyenne. Granted, Cheyenne was in like the weird head and arm position with Montserrat Ruiz, but even still, you know, I was embarrassed watching that fight. Like, just, it was insane, dude. How do you get head and arm thrown the same way 3 times? And I grant that it's like the main go-to for Montserrat, but it's like that is literally freshman year of high school Liam wrestling right there. That's not something that we kept in the toolbox as we advance, because it just gets harder and harder to hit on good people. So that was a real concern for me, red flag. I did bet on her in her last fight when she got that knockout, so felt good to cash on her there. But overall, this is a fight where I don't really have a tremendous betting interest either way. I could be swayed to betting on Mallory Martin at the size of this line, potentially, but I just don't love her game. So unless one of you guys gives me a great reason, I'm probably just going to pass on this fight as well. Gordo, how do you feel?
I don't know. I think that this line is completely based on the fact that Cheyenne Velismus, my bad, got held in that choke for 15 minutes straight and held in the same, what is it called? Head and arm scarf hold, whatever it was. It was awful. It was horrible to watch. But the thing is, I don't think that really indicates who she is as a striker, as an MMA fighter. She looked great her last time out. I think she does have some pretty good skills. I know she has a decent, what is she, a purple belt, brown belt? I know she has a decent, supposedly has a good ground game as well. This is a spot where I think Mallory Martin's very one-dimensional, and I just think that Cheyenne Velismus is the better fighter here. Am I going crazy to go bet on her? No. Do I think she wins? Yeah, I do think she wins. I'm not a big fan of Mallory Martin. So this is a spot where I'm going to take Cheyenne Velismus to win. But I don't think I'm going to bet it at all. This is a spot where on the feet, it's Cheyenne all day. Is Martin going to be smart enough to rush and try to get those takedowns, get those head and arm takedowns the whole time? I don't know. Can I trust that? No. Do I want to be having money on that side, waiting for that to happen, and then get mad at my TV when it doesn't? Probably not. I think I'm just going to sit back, play some Cheyenne and cash. If I have to, what are they? The Colts are facing the Texans this week. They look like a decent parlay piece if I want to throw some money away, but no bet at all yet. This is a spot where I think Cheyenne wins, but no money to back it.
All I will mention to you is this, my brother. So far, 72% of her UFC fights have been spent in grappling positions, and she has been controlling for 14% of that. So she has been like pretty thoroughly out-grappled so far in the UFC. Granted, a lot of that is just from the one fight, but it's just so concerning, man, in my opinion. At the favorite tag, that's really the only thing that makes me hate it. So if you're playing her for DFS, I can see how she wins this fight. I can see how she finishes in this fight as well. You know, I just think Mallory has a path to win this decision. I think, honestly, the one thing that concerns me on the Mallory side too is just I don't know that kind of like posture up, talk down at the girl and throw, the half ground and pound is going to do it. I do think Cheyenne is a pretty tough girl, but the other thing was she's coming off of COVID, as far as I know, which is not a good look, in my opinion, for this fight. And I think she's been talking about it in interviews, said it affected her lung capacity. And that is a concern. It's also something that's really hard to base into your capping, but it's just another reason for me to stay off her at that favorite tag. Chance, how do you feel about this fight?
It's a pass. I mean, like you said, there's just too many extracurricular stuff going on around like Cheyenne buys. And even without the extracurricular, I'm really not a fan of her anyways. So, and I'm definitely not backing Mallory Martin. So, yeah, I mean, I'm good passing on this. Take whatever you're going to bet on this and just put it on Menefield by decision plus 300.
I love it. I love it. So, guys, that's the way it shakes on this. Not every fight is even going to pique your interest, and this is one of the fights that didn't really pique my interest this week. I've also had a tough time betting women's MMA for profit. If you guys have watched this show, you know that I always disclose that up front. So we can move along to the next fight on the card. I think this is a fun, interesting fight, all things considered, man. And I locked in a bet pretty early here, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to track it because the line's been steadily moving away from that number. And I want to be transparent about the lines I get. So I played plus 170 for a little over a unit here on Jeremiah Wells. Now I think plus 158 is the best market price. I've heard a lot of smart guys that I respect on Matthews here, which makes me concerned. And I will not lie about that. That being said, I think Wells is a physical guy. I think he's got a lot of, I'm not saying he's got the most well put together game, right? If you said, Liam, how good are Jeremiah Wells' skills? They're okay. They're pretty good. I think that what might make the difference in this fight is Jeremiah's will. And I think, if you're a competitor, you know this as well as I do, but it's not always about who's better at the techniques. Sometimes it's about who is willing to impose their game plan and who is going to come out swinging, go hard, sacrifice everything, and try and, take you out. That's a different approach than trying not to lose or trying to, keep it close or trying to stay safe. Some people are just built different. And I think that, we've seen examples of Jake Matthews getting touched, getting hit, getting hurt, and finding a way out of a fight. We've seen examples of Jake Matthews getting out-grappled, out-controlled by the likes of Sean Brady and finding a way out, in my opinion. So I think that there's some reason to believe there's, if the going gets tough, Jake Matthews might look for a way out. Don't want to have my money on that at favorite price, especially. And on top of that, Jeremiah Wells, comes from one of the best regional organizations in the country, CFFC. I know I'm biased. I'm from New York area, Northeast, fighting stand up, but it's just my man Sean Orr. I've referenced it before. He did a statistical breakdown of regional performance, and CFFC consistently produces very talented guys that win a lot of fights in the UFC. What I saw from Jeremiah Wells in that Warley Alves fight, guys, he's freaky strong. He gets on top of him by overwhelming him with pressure. It wasn't anything technical, right? You can't say he was better at wrestling than him. No, he overwhelmed him with pressure and power, ran through him, got on top of him, was able to get some good positions, and he was holding his arm behind his back, throwing pretty thudding ground and pound, put a lot of damage on Alves early. So Alves is able to get the sweep, but he's already hurting. And then Wells is able to finish the job. And I think he's a dangerous guy, period. I think he's way more dangerous than Jake Matthews. And so I think Jake Matthews has a path to controlling this fight, winning a decision, landing some hooks on the outside, trying to touch him with the jab. But overall, I feel like Jake Matthews hasn't shown the levels of improvements I want to see over the course of a UFC career. I don't think that he's fighting at a very high level to the point where he's got, this clear path that he's going to execute. What is his number one skill set? I don't know. I'm not sure. And I don't think that he presses an advantage in any one area of the game. So I think that Jeremiah Wells, not on short notice, will have good cardio for this fight. He's gone 5 rounds before. I see Mbe in the chat saying that he looked gassed by round 2. I can hear that argument, but I think that was a fight on short notice. And I think that if Wells' durability holds up in the spot, I think he's probably going to be able to either win minutes or find a finish in this fight. So I think he's going to be live throughout. I think he's going to fight for my money. I really like what the Renzo Gracie Philly guys are doing. I tried to fade Pat Sabatini with another guy who I was like, oh, his grappling looks okay on tape. And no, these guys are a little bit different. And I'm not going to stand in the way of those guys right now. To be honest, they've been making me a lot of money. I cashed a big bet last time on Sean Brady against Jake Matthews. I'm going back to the well with Renzo Gracie Philly. Renzo Gracie hit squad. Let's get this money, boys. Gordo, how do you feel?
Yeah, man, this is a spot where it's just tough for me to see. And right off the bat, I am passing on this one as well. I know, it's weird. I'm passing on too many fights. But I think if you put both fighters in the same body, I think that Jake Matthews is the more skilled fighter on paper. However, with that being said, Wells shoots out of a cannon. That man is energetic. He's powerful. He's explosive. And the big thing that's making me consider betting him here is he's from the same gym as Sean Brady. Right? Game plan, question mark? Anyways, is Sean Brady able to help him practice for Jake Matthews? Who knows? I think that Jeremiah Wells is a absolutely killer guy for as long as a fast light. He's explosive. He knows what he has to do. He gets to the point. He gets it done. And it's super entertaining to watch. Too many question marks. That's all it is. I haven't seen enough of Jeremiah Wells to want to put my hard-earned money behind him. Will I have him a lot in DraftKings? Yeah, I'm going to have a ton of him in DraftKings because his win criteria is an early stoppage, and I want that. So this is a spot where DraftKings, yes. Hard-earned money, no. I cannot trust him yet. I'm trying to be selective here. It's tough because I want Wells. I love the spot you have on him. I love the balls you have. You got great balls. And this is a spot where I agree with what you have, but I can't bring myself to it. Jake Matthews has more experience. He has a very good skill set. I'll give him that. Very well-rounded. But the drive, the power, the intensity, the goal-oriented movements that Wells does, he does it to a great extent. And for that, I'm a huge fan of it. But no bet from me.
And he's got that black belt in his back pocket, baby. Don't you forget. I really think that people might be sleeping on his levels. Like, he is not the cleanest striker on the feet, but he's got power and he throws, which means he can be effective. And then on the ground, he's a black belt. He has decent wrestling, good power. I don't know, guys. I think that he's definitely got a live chance here. Chance, speaking of chance, how do you feel?
Yeah, at the current odds, I definitely favor Wells. I think that even if he does gas, I mean, do you really think Matthews is going to put it on him late? Like, do we think Matthews is going to go kill him in round 3? Like, probably not. And that's if it makes it there, if Wells doesn't kill him early. So, yeah, I definitely favor Wells a bit. I don't have a bet or anything here. But yeah, I definitely lean Wells. I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, Jake Matthews didn't finish Diego Sanchez, so I mean, that's kind of concerning. I mean,
That's exactly what I was thinking, Chance. Exactly the fight that comes to mind, and it was because he never committed to attacking him.
and
Like
honestly, it didn't
he
come
could have
close.
finished that fight. Like he just decided not to.
Yeah, like he never pressed on the gas, so I don't think you can trust him. Like if you're betting Matthews, like I think a large part of his win condition comes late or like by decision, right? And that's if he survives, one, and then two, you're trusting him also to press on the gas, which he didn't do against Diego, who's much less of a threat, I would say, than Wells. So, yeah, I mean, the Wells gassing is a concern. Plus 155 is playable, I think. Yeah, I'm not laying minus 180 with Jake Matthews.
Rock and roll, brother. So seems like we're largely in agreement here. Gonna hold off on Chiesa didn't finish Sanchez, and Chiesa can't finish anybody these days. He can't win a fight these days, unfortunately, for him. But geez, either way, folks, we're on to the next one. We got Bryan Barbarina at 170 pounds taking on UFC newcomer and a guy with, I think a quarter of the professional experience in Darian Weeks. However, Darian Weeks has had a pretty extensive amateur background. And so I looked into some of those fights. I looked into some of his pro fights. Doesn't seem like a bad fighter to me. Still seems a little bit raw. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man, what to make of it exactly. Because Bryan did look pretty dang shot to me against Jason Witt. Thought that was a winnable fight for him. Feel like Bryan slipped on some banana peels. He's not the most athletic guy. And so I think for a while he was able to make do with durability. And heart and toughness and pretty decent technique. But I do think it's starting to get, tough for Bryan to find that durability, to, find the output and the pace from round one, and to keep the focus on the fight, and I just think that it's tough for me to back Bryan Barberena at this point. And yeah, I think Chad makes a good point that, he really got like badly put out in that fight. And just in terms of damage, like he's had a couple of those blood and guts fights, but Luque really hits like a truck and he'll take it out of you, and he could take the best shot you have to give. So what a war that was. And thank both of those guys for the entertainment. But geez Louise, I think he did leave a piece of himself in that fight. Gordo, how do you feel about this one?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have not done tape on the new guy, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys got to say, because from the outsider looking in, such as I am, it seems crazy that a guy in Bryan Barberena is just like a minus 135 favorite in the spot. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. I think that he's got a great UFC experience edge. And whereas I am also concerned with his recent surgeries and the way he's looked recently, that Witt fight, by the way, however crazy it was a very, very entertaining fight. I loved watching that when I was doing my tape. But I'm not going to waste anyone's time because I haven't taped the new guy. So I'm just going to let you guys take this one over. But I don't know what everyone else is seeing in him off of just the one fight I saw that is making him such a close favorite to a UFC tested vet like Barbarina.
I really think it is just the upside on a new guy who's pretty durable and who's probably going to have some chance to finish Bryan Barberena. And I think it's more so a fade on Bryan, I would think, than backing Weeks. It's not like Weeks is a bad fighter. He hasn't proven much against good fighters. He's fighting like really low-level guys. However, I did see him fight out of adversity as well. It's not like he's just going to quit on himself. He got taken down, his back taken in one of the fights that he had when he was 2-0. I forget what the gentleman's name, but you could look it up. They were both 2-0 at the time, and he was able to secure a win there on the guy's back after getting his back taken. So it's like the guy can fight through some adversity. He's not going to quit on himself. I think that's what people like. And Bryan, I think that people are off the train. I can see what you're saying though, in that it could be a good buy down spot. For me, I'm just not ready to invest in somebody like Bryan. I found it hard to invest on him in the past based on how much damage he was willing to take in his fights. And I think at this point, we're kind of seeing some of the effects. He looked very slow against Jason Witt. And I'm not sure how much he's training anymore for these fights, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm sure he's training, a decent bit, but he's got a big family. I just have some major red flags in my head. I don't think Brian is like all in on his career anymore. Chance, anything on this?
Yeah, I'm not going to have anything tracked on this, but I'm going to be betting Darian Weeks pretty big, personally, for a couple reasons. It kind of just feels like a trap to me, in my opinion. Like, I mean, Barbarina is a UFC vet, only favored by a little bit, and they bring in a no-name guy who's, basically at a pick 'em right now. So just like looking at the line, like I feel like you should bet Weeks. I watched the tape. He doesn't seem horrible. I don't really know if he's ready or not yet, but I also don't really know if that matters. Like sometimes like the best guy doesn't always win, and while Barbarina is probably the better like MMA fighter, Weeks is probably just gonna hit him hard and it's gonna be over. And that's kind of my prediction here. I think Weeks KO isn't bad, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, I don't really think Barbarina is very good, and I'll bet on the upside of Weeks. And I think UFC brought him in for a reason, and the line just feels weird. Oh, does it not feel weird to you guys? Like when I do my tape and I do my research, like I go through the fights, right, and I set my lines for this fight. And in my opinion, I thought Barbarina would be a pretty decent sized favorite against a short notice replacement guy that's 5-0. Don't you guys? What do you guys think? Like off the top of your head, and Darian Weeks is not some like up and coming guy that everyone knows. Like, you know what I mean? Like we get up and coming guys where people are like, oh, like yeah, I've been watching this guy. No one's been watching Darian Weeks. Like, if
I totally agree.
If someone's like, oh, I've been watching Darian Weeks since no, they haven't, bro. No one's been watching this guy. It's only a pick. It just seems kind of trappy. Weeks KO plus 275, even plus, dude. Weeks KO plus 420 at FanDuel. Podcast play right there. Boom. That's it.
I kind of like where your head's at, Chance, to be honest with you. And if I was to make a play on the fight, that's probably the one I would lead towards, would be Weeks or Weeks KO. And just because I feel like he's the hungrier guy, this is a big opportunity for him. He did accumulate a lot of amateur experience, probably to set himself up for a pro career. Then he takes a bunch of softball fights to get into the UFC. That doesn't seem like a crazy, professional path to me. Granted, if he wins this fight, he's going to start probably, getting thrown into the deep end a little bit more than you would want. You'd want a little bit more seasoning. Maybe the Contender Series was a more appropriate landing spot for him here. But I also think that the UFC is probably looking at Brian's last fight and saying, who can we replace Brian with? And I say that with all due respect.
Yeah, I completely agree. Weeks probably a little bit more athletic. Hits harder at this point. It's going to be faster on the feet. Yeah, there's really not much to say. I think he knocks him out, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think plus 475.
Ryan's 15-8. He's just like, that's just not a great record. Gordo, what did you have to say?
I just gotta say, I'm doing my tape study tonight. I apologize for not being ready on the show, but this is a spot where I'm gonna have to see, because I don't think Jason Witt's that bad. We were fading Jason Witt because he has no chin. All right. I still think that Jason Witt has some decent skills. That fight was, however sloppy it was a decent one to watch. I think Barbarina, despite him being
the white William Knight,
the white William Knight, the vanilla gorilla, Barbarina is this guy that I still have a lot of respect for. His experience is going to play a huge dividend in this spot. And if I don't see clear paths to victory for Weeks, I'm probably going to bet it. If people want to keep betting Weeks all the way down to Barbarina minus 130, an experience edge alone is worth like a half unit shot, in my opinion, just because Barbarina's been there. He's done that. Going from Luque and Witt to a guy we've never seen before is something that there's so many different possibilities. When you can get a close line like that, you almost want to take that shot because you kind of have that mathematical edge on paper. With that being said, I don't know if I'm going to get there. I'm doing my tape tonight. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to watch it. I see it in the chat. It's not like he has a James Vick chin. Yeah, I don't think he does yet, but he's accumulating a lot of damage. He looked very slow his last fight. And if you're not training for a fight, it's not going to help you at all. So I'm going to do my tape today. I'm going to see maybe stalk around Barbarina's Instagram. I'm going to see what he's holding up. And if he's able to show me any glimpse of hope that he's back to wanting to win a fight, he has the experience edge to do it. He has the skill set to do it. Does he want it? That's the real question.
I have this horrible, dreadful feeling, and I could be dead wrong, right? I think Mbaye, Mina could be dead right about this. I could be dead wrong, but I have this horrible vision in my head of this looking like the Ally Quinta and Bobby Green fight. And not from, obviously those are two veterans, but just from a style dynamic point of view, I feel like this might look like, Brian gets hit with a few hard shots early, realizes this guy wants it way better than I do now. I don't really know why I'm here, and checks out. So I could be wrong, but that was just the vibe I kind of got from the Witt fight. Witt's not really the guy who's going to take you out of there either. He's trying to wrestle fuck you. So I feel like, it was a good fight. It was a fun one. He was not able to get Witt out of there even when he had him on ice skates a few times, which was a little bit of a concern for me. So let's see what Brian can do here. Hopefully he turns back the clock for his own sake, because this man, Darian Weeks, will have plenty more opportunities. He's a young man. So
I'll just say real quick.
Absolutely.
I just locked in Weeks KO officially. So yeah, that's going to be tracked. The more I'm sitting here like listening to us talk about it, it just seems more and more like Weeks is going to win, and in like pretty nice fashion. I just think Barbarina, he's just so slow, dude. And like I see people in the chat saying he doesn't get put out, and like that's fair. But look who he's fighting though. Like, we have Darian Weeks, who has like a boxing background. He's been competing in, actual like boxing bouts, like
in 2021. Yeah,
and he has a ton of fights. Like, I haven't done a ton of tape on it. I've watched a little bit, but like nothing crazy. But enough to. I've seen this line before. Like, I've seen this story, and I just feel like it's just time. So.
Now, does Weeks shoot any takedowns? Does he have a ground game at all?
Probably not. I haven't watched a ton of tape. Just the line to me speaks volumes to me in this instance, where you have a UFC veteran and someone who nobody knows, and it's a pick. We've seen it like recently too. I cannot remember the guy's name right now, but we've seen it a few times recently where you have someone who no one knows yet, and they're sometimes even favored or a slight dog, and they come out and win. And I think this is kind of one of those spots, just from like looking at the line, watching a little bit of tape. Plus 475 at FanDuel for a knockout against someone who's much slower on the feet is, I think, worth a stab.
He's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he will occasionally shoot an offensive takedown. Like, he can get on top of people. He can also give up takedowns. He kind of does this weird thing where he presses himself to the cage sideways and gives up his back, but he doesn't often get taken down from it. One guy was able to take him down, take his back. Again, I didn't watch all the footage, but this is my preliminary research as well. This is what I saw when I was taping him earlier. He doesn't have an incompetent ground game, but I wouldn't say he's like a grappling savant or something. He wants to keep the fight on the feet, or if he's on top, he's trying to punch you. He's trying to hurt you from the stack guard normally.
Well, I'll do my due diligence. I'll do the tape. I'll message you guys. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter at GamblesGordon. I'll tweet out what I'm thinking right there. So again, I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna look and see if I got a spot in it or not. If you see that advantage for Weeks, I get what you're saying with the line. I know the bookies are trying to fool us. It's us against the bookies, as Liam always says. But I'll have to see, because I give so much credit to experience. And if Barbarina's not going to go out cold, we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Boys, on to the next one. We've got a very fun one at the flyweight division. Zhalgas Zhumagulov taking on Manel Kape. And I say a fun one, but we'll have to see how it turns out. It could end up being a staring match. We've seen a little bit of that from Manel Kape in his fights, but he's also had some, fun rounds. He's had some fun moments in his fights. And I think that it's very, it's very possible that this could turn into a war, because Zhalgas has kind of been a little bit spazzy and aggressive in some of his UFC fights. So I don't really know exactly how to get a beat on this. I think that the fight's probably a little bit closer than lined, but I also think that the finishing upside is probably on the Manel side. So I can see why he's favored here. But I do think that if the fight sees the scorecards, it's very possible Zhalgas throws more volume, even if it's less effective. So I think, Kape is he's got some offensive wrestling potential. And I don't know, man. I think that this is a tricky fight. Gordon, I'll kick it to you first.
First of all, Chad on follow me because I don't have a bet on every fight. That's where you're wrong. We're doing my channel on this time, right? Liam, you got any Hail Marys for me today?
I'll try and come up with some by the end.
Well, I'll tell you this. I got
at least one. At least one.
Chad, my friend, I bet on every fight. Don't you worry, my guy. I got you for that stuff. But point being, Zhalgas in this fight, where he is cheaper and he is a durable guy, this is where if you're betting either of them, I'm probably taking them by decision. I don't see a finish coming in either of those spots. Honestly, leave that at yourself. Master Z by decision is kind of tempting because whereas Cape is the more skilled fighter, his IQ is below average. He didn't look very well in his first two UFC fights in terms of knowing what to do to get the win. He didn't pressure. He didn't put out that much volume. He didn't look great. And whereas Master Z may be less skilled and less talented than him, he knows what he has to do. Like he goes out there. He lost controversial split. I think a lot would be different if he did win that fight. Is Cape the better fighter? Sure. Can you trust him to go out there and make those plays? Probably not. And for that reason, the volume reason, the ability that I think Zhalgas is a very durable guy, Zhalgas by decision, that's probably where I'm going to lean. If I want to play a cash lineup and I need a cheap guy on DraftKings, it's probably be Zhalgas, even though I think Cape is the better fighter here. So maybe I just have PTSD from betting Cop in the past, but I think that Master Z has a better line than this, better shot to win than this line does entail, especially by decision.
Totally feel what you're saying, man, and just wanted to go back and check myself to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn. But Zhalgas Zhumagulov hasn't been finished since 2015 on the regional scene, and that is something that for me again makes this a little bit closer than the odds may entail. Want to credit my man Sean. Heard him talking about this fight as well. And I think that he made a lot of good points. I do think people underrate sometimes Cap as a grappler. Not to say that he's a good grappler, but his offensive wrestling is potent. His defensive wrestling is not piss poor by any means. And his get-up game isn't bad either. Chance, how do you feel about this matchup? Do you think that this is a fight that you have interest from a betting perspective?
Cop's probably going to win. He's probably the better fighter to buy in on long term. But yeah, I kind of agree with what Sean's saying. This price is absurd. I mean, if you're gonna bet it, bet Zhalgas. I mean, he's probably gonna throw more volume. He's gonna win minutes. He probably wins until he dies. Yeah, Cop's one of those guys I kind of have a weird feeling about. He's either gonna lose to Zhalgas or he's gonna be a contender. You know what I mean? I'm not really sure. If you told me Zhalgas is going to win here, you can make a legitimate case, just like you can make a legitimate case that he's going to be a contender. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah, the price is just ridiculous. So yeah, I'm passing on a lot, but yeah, I minus. It's almost up to minus. Yeah, it's minus 290 right now at some books. That's wild. That is absolutely wild for someone who's going to 100% lose minutes.
The only thing I would add on top of what Chance is saying is that, the places where the Cap line has gone the furthest is in part on some of the sharpest books, and that for me is a little bit of a concern. There's probably some big money players involved on that side. I could see why, but again, at this point, it just seems like the book's trying to cover the other end of their liability by hanging the Zhalgas plus 245. If anything, I would probably look at the Zhalgas decision prop line. If you want to play Zhalgas, I don't think he's going to finish Manel Cap at greater than a 5 to 10% clip here. So I think that this is a Zhalgas decision or pass.
Cop
for me.
KO plus 240 isn't bad.
It's not horrible. Yeah, I'm just, dude, I hate betting on guys to win by KO that don't throw. Because then I find myself screaming at my television.
Yeah,
so
if it was plus 300-ish, I could find myself taking a shot. But yeah, it just seems a little bit short.
I hear it. So, boys, we've got another fight to look forward to in a division where I've tended to have a little bit of success historically, but I don't have the strongest read on this fight. neither guy is somebody I've historically ran to the window to get behind with enthusiasm. We've got Maki Pitolo on one side taking on Dusko Todorovic on the other side. And, if I had to say who I was higher on when they came to the UFC, it was Dusko because he had knocked out Michel Pereira. But we saw that, Dusko on the offense can be quite intimidating. But when guys aren't afraid of Dusko and they're throwing back, they're landing often. Dusko does the chin up bit where he kind of, swings it around. It's not always easy to place shots on his head because he's moving it. But when he does get hit, he normally gets Pez dispensered. Brutalize me, boys. Sorry, we dropped off there for a second. But we're back. Dusko has negative head movement was the comment I was trying to highlight there. And I agree with that sentiment. I think Dusko leaves himself in danger. I think that Maki Pitolo has some power in his hands. I wouldn't be stunned if he put some hurting on Dusko. But I just can't get behind this man, Maki Pitolo, man. I think I've seen a lot of, flake jobs from this guy in the UFC, with all due respect. We've seen some cardio deficiencies. I definitely see what Sean's saying, that he seems to be value. I did see improvements, as Mina's pointing out as well. But it's just like he can't get through 15 minutes clean, and it seems like a mental problem to me. He puts his head in that guillotine a lot. Even times he got out of it against Marquez, he put his head in the guillotine all the time. When he's panicking, when he's tired, when he's under duress, he shoots a predictable, wide, sprawled out on the knees takedown attempt. And that's just dangerous against anybody. And so I don't know how to rate Dusko's grappling. That to me could be an X factor in the fight. But overall, this is a fight that I probably will pass on. I don't really like either of these guys at this point. And unless I see market improvements from them, I'm hoping one of them wins in emphatic fashion so I can fade them in the future. Gordo, how do you feel?
Well, I am ready to be bullied. All right, let's break this one down. I've bet on Maki Pitolo multiple times. Made me happy against Bird, broke my heart against Darren Stewart with that guillotine, and absolutely crushed me down when he got subbed in round 3 against Julian Marquez. I don't think there was any dispute. I think that Pitolo was winning that fight pretty convincingly. He showed a lot of improvements. He showed like he was a much better fighter of himself. And then he died. And he hurt my feelings. He hurt my bank account. And he just hurt my ego. And here I am going back to Mr. Maki Pitolo. Can't get enough of coconut bombs. I don't know why I do it to myself. It hurts. But hear me out. Dusko Todorovic has negative defense. I see negative head movement. It's negative defense in general. The way that Maki Pitolo loses his fights is he either gasses out and puts himself in a submission, or people like Julian Marquez are just able to be more durable than him and able to drag him in these deep waters. I think that Maki Pitolo is hungry to get better. I think he is improving every day. I think that there's no dispute that this guy has power in his hands for days. Not as powerful as Punahele Soriano, but powerful enough to put down a guy with no defense. I mean, the more you get knocked out, the more your chin's starting to deteriorate. I don't know. This is a spot where I think Maki Pitolo should be lined closer than it is. I got plus 140 on him. I think that he has a good chance of winning this fight. He was winning a fight against Julian Marquez, a guy who I hold to a lot higher regard than Dusko Todorovic. I think that Pitolo has a chance to implement an even better game plan. It shows he's improving. And I don't think that Todorovic poses that same grappling threat that Julian Marquez does, that same durability threat that Marquez does, or that same cardio threat that Marquez does. I think Maki Pitolo should be held a bit higher standards. Maybe I'm just trying to go back to that abusive ex. The man hurts my feelings so many times. It's tough. I'm not going balls to the walls here. Single unit, Maki Pitolo plus 140. Please don't hurt me again.
Hey, I can see where you're coming from, man. And I almost considered betting Maki ITD because, I kind of think that the longer the fight goes, the more chance there is that he'll F up. So I would hope if I was on the Maki side that he would win it early. But with that being said, man, I just remember back to that Marquez fight. I wasn't that impressed. He did give up bad positions even in the second round that Marquez like completely just shit the bed on. Marquez was on his back and fell forward over the top to do nothing. Just didn't even attempt to stand back up. Was like, all right, I guess I'm in guard now. And then in the third round, he had been bitched out by James Krause in the corner. And he's like, please don't fucking step backwards. Don't step backwards. And then he didn't, and he won. Dusko, at his best, is pushing guys into the cage with head position and throwing some body shots and whatever and leaning on guys. And I think if he decides to go back to that here, as opposed to striking at range, he could make it, an easier fight for himself. But I do think that, Maki's obviously got some skills. So let's see if he can put it all together. I just can't trust the guy with my money. Chance, how about you?
So both of these guys have been on the losing end of two of my favorite bets of all time. Okay, the first one was Punahele Soriano round 1 KO, cashed it, and Patolo. I had Marquez by sub against Patolo. So that's good. I appreciate both of these guys for that. As far as this fight goes, Maki probably the side. I would like to get like plus 150-ish with him. I think Dusko's a little chinny. He doesn't really do a lot that I like. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this fight, we're all betting on unknowns here. Like whenever you're betting on fights and stuff like that, you kind of have to assume things here and there. But with this one, like there just seems like to be like a lot of question marks, in my opinion, and to not really get a ton back on Maki Patolo, I just don't really think it's worth it. I'm definitely not laying chalk with Dusko. That is one thing for sure. So I think honestly the best bet in this fight though, real quick, is doesn't go to decision minus 145. Like I feel like one of these guys is pretty liable to do something stupid and die. So that's probably the best bet.
I definitely co-sign that. My only concern for that would be Maki grapple fucking him to a decision somehow. Because I did think that, Marquez showed a pretty decent get-up game in that fight and really did force him to work a little bit in the first round at least. And I think that was what did him in by the end of the 15 minutes. But I will just say Patolo by KO at plus 385 on Bet Online doesn't look like the worst play in the world. I would like a little higher, but market wide, it's sitting about plus 300. That seems like the best price. So I would consider that stab as well, because I do think that the chin concerns are real for the Dusko side. And especially if you got bad defense and chin concerns, and to answer Mina, Maki is not a primary grappler, I wouldn't say, but he actually has been showcasing better grappling in recent fights, like the Marquez fight, as Gordo was talking about. So I definitely see that as an improving part of his game, if not a good part of his game already. Moving right along, I know that we're going to disagree a little bit on this fight. I didn't end up taking any betting action because I wanted to talk this one out with the boys before I ended up taking a play. But we've got Mickey Gall and Alex Morono at 170 pounds. I can't pay to get an Alex Morono fight right, I don't think. I'm half kidding. I don't know who I picked for that Chaos Williams fight, but I know that I bet him against Anthony Pettis, and everything looked like it was going so swimmingly, and then he almost died. And he's kind of got a habit of doing that. I think Morono has a little bit of chin concerns. I think he's got kind of wild spastic striking where he will land at a decent volume if you don't kill him, but his chin is out in the air. He's not balanced on his feet very well. So I think people can run through him on takedowns. People talk about he could blow over with a gust of wind. I really just think it's like he's kind of up on his toes and like a little bit off balance, chasing people when he's throwing. And it leaves him, where you can hit a reactive shot pretty easily, in my opinion. So overall, I think Mickey Gall, he's the younger guy. He's got a bigger frame. And I think he's been making improvements fight over fight. He kind of got thrown in the deep end of the pool when he was like 3-0 as a professional, 2-0 as a professional. And granted, they gave him the right fights a little bit to build him up, but there were some tough fights mixed in there. And a lot of people give him shit for getting out wrestled by Mike Perry. But, Mike Perry, that's kind of what he was doing by the end of his UFC run. And when he wasn't doing it, he was getting hurt badly on the feet. I think Mike had realized, like, man, I'm slowing down a little bit. I better start doing something else, closing the distance, and stop taking so much damage in every fight. So I think that was what we saw in that fight. I think Mickey Gall, if his cardio holds up in this fight, I don't think there's any way Morono is going to justify the price. But like I hear people that I respect on the Morono side here. I've had a hard time getting Morono fights right, so I didn't go to the well on a half unit shot on Mickey Gall money line like I was considering. And I also, I just don't think that Mickey Gall is going to get severely out grappled by Morono here. I think that I'm not saying he's going to sub him by any means, Mbe, because I do rate the defensive grappling of Morono, broadly speaking. I just don't think that Mickey's going to get submitted either unless he's dog tired in round 3. I think Mickey's got pretty credible jiu-jitsu. So, Gordo, we're going to kick this one to you. I think you've got a pretty strong read on this fight, and so we're going to wish you the best of luck.
Well, it's an Alex Morono fight, so I think all reads go out the window here. Complete disclosure, I can't get a fight right either. I think I bet Sawada last time out, but let's try this again, okay? Alex Morono is a guy who, despite all of his lack of, let's say, skill in a lot of area, he's able to win fights. I mean, he's got a good game plan. I think he's a pretty smart guy in general. He knows what he has to do to win fights, and I'll give him credit for that. I think that he's got decent output, decent striking, and I think like you said, his defensive grappling is really good. I think a lot of people are looking at this fight as in, if Gall wants to win this, he's going to have to submit him. And I don't think that's exactly the case, but I don't think that Gall's going to be able to submit at all. That has been Gall's major win criteria in a lot of his fights, but I don't think it's really live here. However, I do hold Gall striking to a decent extent. I do think that he's able to have decent hands. I do like that. So I'm not all over Morono like other people are in that spot. But I think that even on the feet, I don't think that Gall's able to keep that up 15 minutes. I don't think that his volume wins minutes. And unless Morono's chin is, like you said, a bit shot, I don't know. I think that this is a spot where I don't really see Gall's path to victory other than him a club and sub or knock him out in the feet. To that point, I don't think that that disparity in striking is that different between Gall and Morono either. I think it'd be pretty close and competitive. And even like you said, spazzing, striking, in the way whatever you called it, I still think that wins more minutes. I think that Morono's more active. I think he puts a pace on, a pressure that Gall just can't keep up with.
Sean is here agreeing as well about the tippy toes point. But yeah, man, I definitely see what you're saying. Morono is a better pace fighter in this spot. But I can't get the image out of my mind of Morono getting countered on the naked leg kicks, just like spazzing with a leg kick and getting put in the box. Like I feel like Morono, his striking just leaves him on the edge of danger so often. Mickey Gall has just been showing those gradual improvements to me. I thought he hurt Mike Perry, and I did think that he hurt Williams really bad. So, the sub was almost elementary. It's just because that's more natural to him instead of the ground and pound. But I do think that definitely fair point by Mbe that Williams is a little bit chinny. Perry doesn't have great striking defense. All of that is fair. And I do think from an IQ perspective, that's where I have a hard time betting against Morono and with Gall. I do think Morono's a smart fighter, broadly speaking. Just don't know how well he's going to put it all together. And especially against a guy who's young and improving like Mickey Gall. I don't know. I think Mickey has shown a little bit of maturity as well as some technical developments over recent years. But we'll have to continue to see those improvements if he wants to make a position for himself in the UFC. Chance, how do you feel about this fight? All righty. Oh, no.
I kind of like Morono round 3 or by decision. Morono round 3 or by decision seems pretty decent. I think you should put more volume on Gall. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I kind of agree with what both of you guys said. I really have nothing else to add, really. I think Morono round 3 KO is like plus 1,900. And honestly, if you're looking for a shot, like if you think Gall gasses, like I think that's a pretty good bet. I mean, Morono's going to tag him up as long as it's on the feet. And Morono's defensive grappling is pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, dude, like if you think Gall's gonna sub him, like just play Gall sub round 1. Like, I mean, his cardio is pretty suspect in my opinion, and I definitely don't think it comes late. So, or like Gall round 1 or 2 plus 480 plus 400 isn't bad if you think Gall wins. But I have nothing on this fight at all. But Morono round 3. Or decision is like a minus 120 ish, and I think that's not bad.
Awesome, man. So there we have it. I am just not going to get involved in this one from a betting perspective. I don't think at this point, I do think there's some red flags on the Gall side. Maybe this is a good opportunity to gather data on these guys, but if you want to follow my man Chance, he's got that plus 1900 as a potential sprinkle. I don't hate it. I do think it is, Morono's time to shine in round 3. If he wants to win this fight, that's where he's going to have to make, his best run, in my opinion. So we can move right along here, boys. We are now on to the second fight on the main card is going to be a middleweight bout between Brendan Allen and Chris Curtis. This guy is fighting every weekend now. Cheers to him. And finally got to the UFC, man. Had basically a failed pro fighting career by his own standards, not having gotten to the organization, had sort of put the work in, and now he's here, gets a big win, trying to parlay that into another big opportunity here, but may have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew in Brendan Allen, pretty talented guy. I think Curtis has a path to victory here. Allen's a very hittable fighter. But I think he's been showing improvements in that regard, fighting a little bit longer, working behind the jab a little bit more, and those long kicks. He's a pretty long, tall guy, good frame for the division as far as I'm concerned. Chris Curtis, a little bit more sized for that for that welterweight division by the looks of things. But, I expect that he'll have, the cardio to go 15 here should the fight go 15. I think Brendan can pick him apart a little bit at range, but I think, if he's fighting at range, there's always going to be that little precipice of danger with Curtis. He's kind of got that leaping hook that can really hurt somebody. We saw it put Phil Hawes in the box, unfortunately for him. Rest his soul. That was a bad one, folks. But I think overall, this is a good fight, to see where we're at with Brendan Allen. I think from a fight IQ perspective, he should take this fight to the ground to keep it safe. But, I heard my man Sean's take on this fight. I thought it made a lot of sense, too, that Allen might be looking to strike here, trying to get that rematch with Sean Strickland. And, I think that could be a dangerous knife edge to walk. But with the length, with the range, I could see how he wins the fight. Maybe a small sprinkle here on Chris Curtis by KO for me, but otherwise, I don't think I'm going to end up playing this fight. Gordo, how do you feel?
Yeah, this is one where I'm going to keep it simple for the breakdown. Chris Curtis is going to be a huge step up. Brendan Allen I hold to a very high regard. There's no comparison between him and Phil Hayes. And like you said, Phil Hayes has no chin at all. But we got to remember that Phil Hayes was destroying him that first round for as long as it lasted. Until he became Phil Hayes and got put to sleep. But this is one where I think that he's just biting off more than he can chew. Brendan Allen's a big, tough guy and staying in the ground, like we see in the chat right now. Very, very improving striking as well. Good striking defense, in my opinion. And I don't care who you have in your corner. If you don't have the skills to back it up, someone like Brendan Allen's going to make you pay. I'm liking him here. I just got to figure out how I'm going to play him. Very, very wide line. The problem with Chris Curtis is a guy who I usually like to bet because he's got heart. He'll stay in those fights and win it later on, and I love to see that. But man, is he getting a huge step up. Brendan Allen is a top guy in the division, top 15 for a reason. Great ground game if he wants to go there. I know that Chris Curtis hasn't been subbed in 6 years, 7 years, but he should be really careful. It does go there. And on the feet, like that length, that size is something that he's really going to have to watch out for. I'm all over Brendan Allen. Kind of a square bet, though, so I don't know how I'm going to play it. I was thinking of maybe parlaying with Morono, but with all you guys are saying, I don't know anymore. But I do think Brendan Allen gets it done pretty convincingly.
Yo, I gotta just say, Sean is saying KO for Allen is plus 650 automatic. And Sean, I'm looking at best fight odds right now, and I'm seeing Allen to win by KO TKO. I'm gonna refresh the page, make sure I'm not speaking out of turn here. But I was seeing Allen KO TKO plus 900 FanDuel Sportsbook. So if that's the side that you're on and you think Allen's going to get that KO, FanDuel is going to be a good look as well. So I know Gordo unfortunately does not have access to that book, and I apologize, my buddy, but I just wanted
Come
to let
on,
the people
Canada.
know if you're on that side, if you think that's a good look, and I certainly think it's possible, given Brendan Allen's recent strategic adjustments, plus 900 for a guy who's a pretty significant favorite here and who's favored to win inside the distance at less than plus 200 on every book. Man, seems like a decent play. But Chance, how do you feel about this one?
I'm not going to take up too much time here. I agree with what you guys are saying for the most part. Allen should win pretty convincingly, in my opinion. I'm really not a huge fan of Chris Curtis. I know a lot of people are. Not me, not a huge fan. But line seems a little wide. I would take Allen ITD. I don't know what it is, but I think he finishes Curtis. Yeah, the KO line, like you guys were saying, I think that's good. I think that's sharp, honestly.
That's why we got our man from Sharp MMA, Sean Orr, friend of the show and multiple time guest, always dropping some knowledge. So appreciate Sean giving the shout. Then I want to give the shout to the people. Sean saying that he thinks his value at plus 650. I could see a plus 900 out there. That means you run and go take that if you got access, ladies and gentlemen. Wishing you the best of luck with any and all plays on these fights. Chance, you got something else for us? Nice.
I'm gonna take some of that. No,
Rock
no,
and
I
roll,
just
man.
agree. I'm gonna take that at plus 900. I think that's pretty wild, honestly.
Dude, I might play both of their KO lines small, honestly, and then I feel like I'll be sitting pretty. I really do. I think somebody's probably going to sleep here.
Well,
and
luckily,
if you line shop a little bit, you could get really good plus numbers on both of them. So,
hey, I don't mind that. You would be pretty good there. I think two pretty good lines for that. But yeah, like you mentioned, I don't got access to that up north. We got our fair share of Poutine and Molson here, by my side. But I got no good bookies for me. I got plus 550 is my best line right now in Allen KO, and I might take a stab on that. I do like that. But yeah, I know Chris Curtis is durable, but I do like that. I appreciate that, Sean.
And the line is just so juiced to the sub, guys. I think it's unplayable, really. I think Allen's sub, the best market price on that right now is plus 240 on 5 dimes. Most books are holding less than plus 200 on him to win by sub. And I just don't think that Chris Curtis is a complete liability off his back. Not saying he's going to get up and get away. I don't know that he's going to get finished down there. He could probably just hold on, control posture, try and work back up to his feet. So that is all on that fight, guys. We can move right along to another fight where I did get down some action. We've got Clay Guida taking on Leonardo Santos. And I had Clay Guida his last time out. I don't think it ended up as a track bet for me. I think I played it at the casino, which is why it stung even more. But yeah, I was watching the fight, thought that Clay, kept it close. I thought Madsen probably was going to edge it. When he did on the split, I was disgusted because it would have been nice to get that one across the board. But either way, I think that was a different matchup than what we have here. I basically think Leo Santos is much better than Clay Guida in a lot of facets of MMA. And so age is the big consideration for people here. And I can see where they're coming from. We did see a little bit of that gassing in the Grant Dawson fight. I just want to give myself credit because I was on Leo big in the Grant Dawson fight, but we ended up with great profit because I said, you know what? How do I lose this bet? I lose this bet if Grant Dawson somehow survives everything that happens and then makes it to round 3 and starts to take over. I'm like, let me put down a little bit of Grant Dawson plus 1,200 to win in round 3. Check the box, ladies and gentlemen. So saved ourselves the huge liability there. But Grant Dawson, guys, is a much better fighter right now than Clay Guida in this division, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that the fact that Leo was very competitive.
He's still an absolute fraud, though.
I hear you, my man. I definitely hear you. He has fought, very infrequently, but I think that this guy, Leo Santos, from a jiu-jitsu perspective, is like nails compared to Clay Guida. I think he's going to cause a lot of problems for him there. And on the feet, Clay Guida, I got to credit my man, Sean. I think he was pointing out that Clay's throwing punches from across the octagon. He's throwing punches 10 feet away from the guy. And I really think that Leo, he's not high volume, but he's precise. And when he does throw, he normally lands a stiff 1-2. And I think that if he lands a stiff 1-2 on Clay Guida, he's going to shoot a bad shot. So if he's shooting a bad shot, he could easily get submitted. It's happened to him a lot. Mina also pointed out Santos by sub. I'm going to be playing Santos sub. I'm going to be playing Santos inside the distance. I'm going to be playing Santos round 1. Gordo, how do you feel?
Beautiful. I love to hear that, and I'm completely with you. For the record, I had the same bet as you, and that was before our time, man. That was before we were hosting this stuff. But yeah, I had that same bet. The same issue here, but you know what that makes? It makes an absolutely beautiful DraftKings play. Leonardo Santos, I think, has the opportunity to finish this fight quite easily, and for that reason, I'm going to have a lot of him in DraftKings, like I mentioned. I think he's got the reach advantage. I think he's got some very accurate strikes. I think that ground game, like you said, is huge levels to it. And I think that he can win this fight a lot of times. We've seen Guida subbed many, many times. He can Guida do everything, for the record. But a spot where I think Santos has all the tools to get it done. Will age play a factor? Hopefully not. Is his chin shot? Hopefully not. But I do think that this is his fight to lose. He has the skills to get it done, and I think he does just that.
Oh, goodness. Sean, don't tell me that's true. He said he had a calf injury. I totally missed that. If that's the case, I'm disgusted. But if not, I'm feeling very good about these tickets because I do think Leo Santos is simply the better fighter. Guys, just want to point out real quick as I kick this over to Chance that PrizePicks has Leo Santos fantasy score set at 79.5. I think that the over on that is a pretty decent look. I think it's very possible he gets an early finish in this fight. I think a finish in round 1 or 2 will easily get us over that mark. But even if not, I don't think it's outside the realm that Santos, scores knockdowns, lands some significant strikes, gets takedowns of his own on Guida's failed attempts. So that is something that I could see as a live possibility. I like his over on fantasy. So if you're checking out PrizePicks, use that promo code Liam. Deposit match 100% up to $100. Chance, how do you feel about this one, my man? Do you think we're crazy? Do you like Leo Santos here? What do you think?
Dude, I'm going to be completely honest. This is the last fight I'm going to pass on, I promise. Dude, I agree Santos is the side. And I agree with what you guys are saying, honestly. I know I keep just saying that repeatedly, but I really do. I mean, I just think you guys are kind of hitting the nail on the head here. I'm not going to bet it, but yeah, I mean, you guys are probably right. I think Santos by sub plus 500. I think that's a pretty good bet. Yeah, personally, just nothing really here. I have some strong opinions on these next couple, but yeah, nothing really here. I think there's much better fights on the card, in my opinion. But Guida just seems to make everything
totally
close.
fair, man. The average age of like 80 in this for a lightweight fight, man. Have you ever seen such a thing?
Yeah, and I mean, dude, Guida just seems to make everything kind of close. Like, I bet Madsen, and like, in hindsight, that was a horrible bet. Even after I bet it, I was like, I really feel like it's gonna win, but I know this is probably not value. But like, I just had to do it. But dude, I just feel like Guida's gonna make it a little bit closer, in my opinion. But I think Santos wins, though. Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely possible, man. I could see all the points that you just made there. And I will acknowledge I did think Santos was a little bit bigger than Guida as well, based on that face-off. And, I could see Guida keeping it close. I just don't know where he wins the fight. And I do think eventually he's going to make a mistake here. He's just been so submission prone. The only concern I have there is that guys later in their careers tend to get submitted less and less frequently. But, Clay just seems like he's had a hole there that he hasn't been able to firm up over the course of his career. And, people don't know that Santos is like a jiu-jitsu guy because he knocks people out. And, that's what they've been seeing in recent fights is he likes to stand on the feet. But that's in his back pocket. That he's like an all-time great before he came over to MMA. So I think Leo Santos could surprise a lot of people by wrapping up Clay Guida in the first round. But if Clay makes it close, that's what I've been banking on in a lot of Clay Guida fights that I bet on him. So I could definitely see the rationale. But we move along.
I feel like the way he bounces around,
yeah, absolutely.
just like wins him points. You know what I mean? Like that's like he looks good. Like when he's bouncing around, you kind of feel like, damn, like he's kind of winning. You know what I mean? Like he looks like
he's got that nice hair.
Hard.
He looks like a nice guy. He hits a loud burp in between rounds. Certainly a lovable figure. He just doesn't do any fight things that you're like, oh, that looked good, Clay. Thank you. Do it again. But we got a good one here at 205 pounds. I think it's going to be a revenge spot for one of these guys. They're pissed off about how their last fight went, trying to get back in there real quick, get the bad taste out of their mouth. And we've got, Jamal Hill, Sweet Dreams, got brutally snapped in the arm region by Paul Craig last time out. My goodness, the fact that was graded as a TKO is one of the reasons why I only want to bet inside the distance. It's one of the reasons why this sport is such a gross mess. And it's also one of the reasons why we love it, folks. Paul Craig ends up getting the knockout finish from his back while we see Jamal, his wrist just flying around limp. It was disgusting. And on the other side, we've got Jimmy Crute, who suffered a similar fate. He gets the foot drop. He hits, the stanky leg all over the octagon, and then still manages to pull off a couple beautiful takedowns. But admittedly, that's against an Anthony Smith who gets taken down with some frequency and with not a ton of resistance often. So I think Anthony Smith is a good fighter, a little bit underrated. I thought that was a winnable fight for Anthony last time out. I think that, Chad makes a great point. This might be too soon for Hill coming back after his arm being fucked up. When I rewatched the fight, I was like, how is he signed to fight this quickly? Maybe there was no structural damage, but you just find that a little hard to believe. I think he said it was a dislocation. If you look at the way that, he was attacked there, he kind of gets his arm inverted first. Like Paul Craig kind of goes for that overhook, turn the elbow in. And that may have been where he did some initial damage, before absolutely locking in like triangle armbar city. So it was just a brutal finish. But Paul Craig is capable of doing that to a lot of guys, very talented guys. Jimmy Crute was able to submit Paul Craig in his own right. So Jimmy Crute probably got the grappling upside here, definitely has some wrestling upside, but doesn't always fight with the best IQ. Very hittable, in my opinion. Anthony Smith was landing at will in that fight. And Crute was doing good work trying to land some attritional blows with the leg kicks. He eats one leg kick return, and that's it. That is the whole, that was the end of the fight. It was one solid leg kick return, as far as I remember, from Anthony Smith. And that, for me, is a huge concern as well in terms of the durability of Jim Crute. I do think that this is an interesting fight. I think it could be a tricky fight. Again, opinions I respect on both sides. So I'm going to kick it to my man Gordo before I give my official prediction. Gordo, how do you feel about this one?
Ooh, keeping us waiting. All right, I like that. Yeah, pretty simple. I bet against both these guys last time out, and I went to the bank with it, and I'm happy. And now I'm thinking, how do I waste that money best? No, I'm kidding. I actually really like this fight. This is a very, very good fight. I think that has the typical slightly grappler versus striker matchup in terms of that's the way that both these guys are going to win this fight. I think it's either Crute dominates him on the mat or Hill's able to piece him up. Hill's a pretty good striker in his own right. So I played it safe. I pussied out like I usually do, and I took the fight doesn't go to decision. I'm not picking a side here. I can very, very easily see Crute dominating him on the ground. Crute has great ground game, and he's hungry to win. Same time, Hill has a very, very good striking game to which Crute has been exploited before. Like you said, very defensively liable on the feet. So this is one where I'm just going to sit back, hope for some violence, and enjoy it. I am going to edge Crute here. I'm going to have a lot of Crute in DraftKings. Hill on DraftKings is very, very good as well in terms of his upside. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think the most likely outcome is probably that Crute sub in my mind. But it's a good parlay piece. If I'm going to be completely honest, I parlay that fight doesn't go to decision with the Dallas Cowboy who played on Thursday. So I have plus money on that going in, and I could not be happier.
Fair enough. Man, I just think that this is a fight where I could see either guy winning in the first round. And I could see the fight being a complete mess and going all 15 minutes. I think that that's the less likely of the two. Crute, even in some fights where he's having early success, will just put himself in weird or bad positions. I thought the oh goodness, Misha Serkinov, he's like the last guy to make that guy look good. With all due respect, I know he's your Canadian brother, but Misha Serkinov, was able to finish him there, making me think he was like a pretty talented guy with some upside. I was like, man, I really respect the game of Crute. But yeah, I think that was an outlier performance, but it also just makes me think that Crute has some stuff to iron out in the grappling portion. I think it was the Oleksiejczuk fight. He's getting a lot of takedowns, but he has to keep mat returning to get the finish. And I think that if he had to do that, for 15 minutes, he would certainly be dead at 7 minutes. Like there's no way. So I think that for me is a cause for concern. I think Raw Torque makes a good point here that if it gets to the third, it's a pick 'em. I would agree with that as well. But I think that, the Crute early finish is certainly on the table. And I think it's just not something I want to be financially invested in. Chance, how do you feel about it?
So this is my biggest bet of the card up until now. Also, real quick, before I get into this, if any of you have an extra screen around, you have got to pull up the Bellator prelims right now. Carlisle and Moret are just both gassed per usual for Spike Carlisle, and they're just swinging haymakers. But anyways, I really think Crute is going to absolutely roll here. I really almost max bet Crute just money line, just because I think that he's honestly underrated on the feet a bit. But I also can trust him to grapple here. So I bet him by sub plus 300, and I took a good bit of his money line as well. I mean, Hill's not bad, but I mean, the grappling path for Crute is massive. I mean, his edge here is pretty gross in my opinion. We can sit here and talk about how Hill has the advantage on the feet, but like it's not going to be there. So I don't know why that even matters. I mean, have we seen Hill like consistently stuff takedowns? No. Have we seen Crute push the grappling? Yes, we have. So Crute's also tough as shit. Like even when his shin snapped in half or whatever it was, his ankle, like he still was. I mean, that's the type of fighter I want to bet on. Same can be said for Jamal Hill, though. I mean,
I was going to say, what more do you want from him, Chance?
Yeah,
he's like, take my arm, punch my face.
Yeah. Yeah, both of these guys are absolute dogs. But yeah, Crute by sub round one, honestly. I think I trust Crute, in my opinion, to go out there and force the grappling. And I think once he does, it should be pretty close to an insta sub, in my opinion. I think it's pretty bad defensive grappling wise from Hill. So that's what I'm on here.
I think that definitely makes sense to me. I can see where you guys are coming from. So I had initially thought maybe there's a touch of value on Jamal Hill's money line at plus 160, but I ended up not pulling the trigger. And I think I'm either going to stay off this fight or maybe look to target some Crute ITD. I think that it was a good point by Mina that he could just KO him on the feet. These are big light heavyweights. And despite the fact that Crute's not like an elite level striker, he's a big man and he throws with power. So I do think he could definitely knock him out. But I think Jamal Hill is like significantly better on the feet, in terms of his process. Like he has a game for winning minutes on the feet. And the only thing I'll give credence to Jamal Hill is I have an advanced analytics for stats that I pay for. And I see that he has a 8% opponent control rate. And so he was taken down, I think it was a fair few times by Darko Stosic. And he gave up very little control time as a result. He did have a pretty decent get-up game when he got there. Darko is not the same level of challenge, I will grant. But I do think, in addition, Jimmy Crute hasn't always had this success taking people down. He has knocked out a bunch of guys as well. So I think that the ITD is something I would look into here. Even if he gets Jamal Hill to the ground, Jamal last time proved you can put him in a Kimura, you can put him in whatever, and he might not tap. The guy's a savage. So that's why when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I like chokes, man. Nobody can be a tough guy about a choke. They sleep like everybody else. So hopefully, if you're betting on Jimmy Crute by submission, he locks in that choke for you. Make things plain, simple, and elementary. But wishing you boys the best of luck with your plays. And, if I consider adding myself, I'll let you guys know on Twitter for sure. So next up, guys, we've got my favorite fight on the card. Absolute banger. Unfortunately, going to be lined up against my man Chance here. Never feels good, but it's the way the cookie crumbles, especially on a matchup as close as this one. But I ended up taking a dog shot here. I'm on my man Brad Riddell against Rafael Fiziev. I think that Brad Riddell has a lot of skills. I think he's got a lot of grit, and I think he's got a lot of upside. When I look at Brad Riddell, I see a guy who can fight through adversity. I see a guy who can make in-fight adjustments that improve his chance of winning. I see a guy who understands optics and what it takes to win rounds in MMA. And I also see a guy who's capable of finding a finish. It hasn't materialized yet in the UFC, but Brad Riddell had Jamie Mullarkey on skates multiple times in that fight. He responded to the fact that he was put on skates well, in my opinion. And that was in a fight where they had spent a tremendous amount of energy wrestling. So Brad was holding his hands a little bit lower. I think that Brad probably has a little bit of wrestling upside in this matchup. Not to say he's going to be getting takedowns and tons of control time, but I think that he's able to mix in that element of his game a little bit more effectively. And I just think overall, when you look at Brad Riddell's game, it's a little bit better put together. I think in the striking exchanges, it's a dangerous fight. And Fiziev certainly could win this fight. He can win this fight by knockout. He could win it early, and he could grease a decision here. I'm not saying he can't, but I think that as the fight progresses, it's going to be Brad Riddell taking over the fight. I think that both guys are live to get a knockout in this fight. And I'm worried for Rafael Fiziev that he's going to get caught on one foot trying to throw a big kick and get caught with the hooks of Brad Riddell. He's excellent with the lead hook. He's got good combination striking. He can mix it up and target the body hard. He can slip and rip to the body. And I think that if Brad's able to put some good damage attritionally on this guy early, I think he's going to have a good chance of getting him out of there late in the fight. So I took a stab on Brad Riddell round 3. I took a stab on Brad Riddell KO 3. I took a stab on Brad Riddell KO, and I took a stab on Brad Riddell money line. That's the way I feel about this fight. I know that my man Chance feels the opposite way, so we're going to kick it over to him on a fight of this magnitude, a co-main event, a lightweight contenders fight. There's an argument that both guys can win the fight. I like the plus money on Brad Riddell, and I like the striking metrics. I like the grappling metrics. I like everything I see statistically. I like everything I see on tape. I like his grit. I like his toughness. I like his round 3. But I recognize that Fiziev's a killer. He's got good skills. I think that he is going to have many more opportunities to win in the UFC. I think this is one of the toughest fights he could be offered right now. And I think he's going to meet his match in Brad Riddell on Saturday night. Gordo, after you, my friend.
Yeah, I'll let Chance talk about this. Like I said, I'm the mediator. Oh, I told you guys. I told them. Yeah, I'm sitting in the middle of these two. This is one where I'm just going to let you guys talk and see what side I pick. I'm mediating this one. But let me just say, I just heard my roommates absolutely erupt. Apparently, Spike Carlisle mounted a comeback, somehow won that fight. Apparently, it was an absolute banger. So, yeah, I just want to put my 2 cents in. Hope I have to go back and watch it, obviously. So, if my roommate's going crazy about it, obviously something crazy happens. So, Chance, you tell me what you saw, then I'll mediate what my thoughts on this co-main is after.
Yeah, it was. That was absolutely insane. Spike was getting his ass beat, reversed him, subbed him. It was beautiful. That fight was insane. Yeah, so going into this, I really thought I'd like Riddell. I think he does a lot of things I like, 100% to Liam's credit. I honestly don't disagree with a lot of what he said, with what Liam said. I just think Fiziev's on a bit of a different level. Like, I really like his hands. He's strong as fuck, very powerful, hits hard. And I think he's going to be much quicker in the pocket than Riddell. Fiziev likes to fight rolling close, and I think we're going to see a bit of a speed advantage there, in my opinion. Also, I think the cardio concerns with Fiziev are a bit overblown. He still did some pretty good work in round 3 against Bobby Green. Like, I went back and watched it, and in my opinion, originally I thought it was a lot worse. Going back and watching it, it wasn't as bad as I thought, watching it live. And so, yeah, I think Fiziev can win the first couple rounds, and I think if his cardio holds up, round 3, I think it'll be fine. I think he's really on a different level. Like, I think he's a future contender. I think he's a guy that I want to buy in on right now at a price like this, against a guy who, honestly, I respect a lot. Brad Riddell's. Against anybody else at this price, I'm looking at taking Brad Riddell, to be completely honest. But I think if you're betting Brad Riddell here, you have to kind of think he's going to grapple a little bit, in my opinion anyways, when I was looking at it. And I just think Fiziev, defensive grappling-wise, I think he's going to be fine here. So I think on the feet, he should pressure forward, get in the pocket, and I think that's where the advantage is going to be. I think people are going to be a little bit shocked whenever he gets in on Brad Riddell, and it's going to be much faster. I really wouldn't be surprised to see a finish, but both guys are absolutely elite, in my opinion. But I think Fiziev's hands are just on a bit of a different level. And his kicks, too, man. His kicks are nuts, dude. Like, that, I mean, even in the third round of the Bobby Green fight, you see him throw. I mean, he's looking a little tired, Some would say a lot tired. Some would say completely gassed. I've heard all three. But, I mean, dude, there's a moment in that round 3 where he throws, like, 3 hard leg kicks in a row. Like, he's still out there throwing. Like, he gasses. If we're going to say he gasses very well, in my opinion. So I think, like, betting the Riddell side, you're kind of banking on, like, some pretty big cardio issues. And you're kind of betting on Riddell to wrestle a bit. And I don't really agree with either one of those sentiments. So, but Riddell's like a hell of a fighter. Like, he could go out here and win this for sure. I mean, he's that's the sport that we're betting on. You know what I mean? Takes one. Yeah, I think Fiziev's hands are just on a bit of a different level.
That's interesting to hear you say that, man, because what I would have thought going into that is that Fiziev definitely is a better kicker, but I think that they're very competitive at boxing range. And so one of us is going to be wrong about that, and we'll have to wait till Saturday night. But cheers to you there, brother. I think that it's a great fight. Like you mentioned, I think both these guys, elite type of fighters. But I think that Brad Riddell, a little bit more experienced, a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more in-fight adjustments is what I'm expecting.
I just want to ask you a question real quick. Do you think Riddell's going to grapple? Do you think he's going to?
I think that if rounds are close, he will. I think that if he is not having the best of the striking exchanges, he will have takedown attempts at the 4-minute mark, the 3:30 mark of rounds, for sure.
Do you think he has success?
I've seen a little bit of that from him in the past. What's that?
Do you think he has success when he does?
I think that he will
like
have more success as the fight goes on. I think if he's shooting takedowns in round 1, it's because he got hurt and they're desperation shots and he probably doesn't get him. I think by rounds 2 and 3, it's possible that he has some grappling success.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. All right. Yeah,
all right, rock and roll, man.
Fight, I think it's going to be a great fight, to be honest.
I'm right there with you. I'm expecting fireworks, and if my guy is the one that gets KO'd, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think it's going to be truly fireworks, and I don't blame anybody taking a shot on the fight doesn't go or the under 2.5. I haven't had a ton of success with that in lightweight fights. Even the recent example that comes to mind, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler seemed like the most sure thing on the card that fight's not going the distance, and it cost us a couple of them long shot parlays. So, that's just something to keep in mind. These lightweights have a way of making it to the final bell, but with so much firepower on both sides, it's a dangerous proposition. And I heard a lot of people with confidence on the over 2.5. I would slow the roll on that a little bit. When you've got two guys slinging absolute heat, from both sides, I don't know that the over is going to be as comfortable as people want it to be. I think both these guys could get hurt in the first 2 rounds. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of fight this is to me, especially if they're both staying in the pocket. So, I could definitely see both guys getting dropped in this fight. But I think with that said, we can move right along to the main event.
Oh,
Gordo, you're going to come down with a final opinion? I know you
Yeah,
had
I'm mediating
passed on it
this.
a little bit.
You know what? Sorry for cutting you off. I didn't want to come off as rude, but I gotta get my sense in on this one. Fazeev is a favorite fighter in this household, and we love his flashy abilities. He always brings a great fight. But I was planning on betting him in this spot here, and I just couldn't bring myself to it. Fazeev, I think, is one of the best kickboxers we've seen. He's super, super good. And I bet Drew Dober against Brad Riddell, so I can't justify anything else. But that being said, this whole talk about being training partners and friends and saying they never fight each other in UFC, that is my reasoning for more wanting to go towards the over. But instead, I think that you have the better kickboxer in Fazeev with the flashier stuff that wins minutes, it wins the judges' scorecards. But on the other side, you have Riddell, who's able to win minutes with the wrestling, who's able to hold his own on the feet very well, but just two tough dudes. So I'm gonna let you two go at it. You guys have your 1v1, have your rivalry. I see case for both sides, so enjoy that. And yeah, let's keep going.
Dude, I also think that matters too. Wait, what you're saying about the flashiness, I didn't even touch on that, but like Fiziev just looks like, or Fiziev, whatever the fuck. Whenever he's fighting, he looks like he's winning rounds, similar to Guida, right? Like in a way, Fiziev's kind of flashy. He's gonna do something cool, you know. Like I don't know, he just seems very confident in there. Riddell does too, but yeah, you know, I mean, he'll shake his finger and stuff, and dude, his head movement too. If y'all remember back, dude, I cannot remember what fight it was, but he has some ridiculous head movement. Yes, oh my god, that is insane. If y'all haven't seen that, like, if someone in the chat hasn't seen that, y'all got to go back and watch that. Like, his head movement is it's insane. It's very impressive, and yeah, I just think he's on a bit of a different level. But I guess,
dude, I think in traditional like kickboxing, it actually becomes more interesting for Fazeev. But the problem is Brad Riddell doesn't fight like a normal kickboxer. He throws some leg kicks. He might throw a body kick. He doesn't really kick upstairs, which is where you see Fazeev shine. You know, he can make people miss. He's got really good reaction time there, but it's a lot harder to move your body. It's a lot harder to move your leg out of the way. That's where I think it might get a little interesting. But we will have to wait for Saturday night. I know we'll all be waiting with bated breath for that one. That is the people's main event of the week, and it gets full credit and respect. I can't even call it a low-key banger. It's a high-key banger. Everybody's tuning in for that one with good reason. But I think the main event, I was mentioning to you guys, I think it was, that I wish the main event and the co-main event were swapped here just so we could get Brad Riddell over 5 rounds. That, for me, would be a little bit less sweaty, in my opinion, whereas now we got Jose Aldo, somebody that I love, somebody that I want to see succeed, going to be in a tougher spot as a result of the 5-round distinction. That being said, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to lose to Rob Font. I think a lot of people are confident on the Font side this week because he's got the length, because he's a little bit younger, because he's got that long jab, because he's looked very good in his recent fights. But I just want to temper the expectations a tiny bit, right? Let's go analyze those fights one by one. We look at Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt didn't look that great in that fight. Looked a little bit worse for wear. He's at like a 6-inch reach disadvantage. He was getting frustrated by the jab early, and he checked out of that fight by like round 3. Round 5, his corner is like yelling at him for being checked out for 10 minutes. And he's like, all right, I guess I'll check back in. And he starts competing again. You know, the 1st and the 5th rounds were the most competitive there. And for me, that's not a good sign if you're backing Rob Font, because you're kind of hoping that Rob's going to take over this fight as it goes on. Maybe you're not, right? There's some people that think Rob's just going to tool him up. I don't see that. When I watch Jose Aldo, I see a guy who's still fast. I see a guy who's still fairly mobile. I see a guy who can still crack. And I see a guy who's still making gradual improvements. You know, as crazy as it is to say, Jose Aldo is not in the same physical condition he was, but he's still competitive in these fights because he's really clever, because he's really talented. He doesn't get hit with leg kicks cleanly, right? He is very good, in my opinion, about punishing people who try to jab nakedly over and over, right? I think if Font wants to get in with that jab, he's got to feint very effectively in this fight, because if Aldo's getting the read on it, he's going to get punished with body shots. And one thing I haven't heard people talking about when I've listened to other breakdowns of this fight card is that Rob Font is a little bit vulnerable to the body, guys. And I've seen it in several instances. So the John Lineker fight, you know, Lineker opens up with a lot of punches to the body, and you see Rob start carrying his hands low. You see Rob get bothered. You see Rob want to start shooting takedowns. You see Rob getting a little panicky. You see Rob not throwing as much volume. Problem for me. on top of that, right, you go look at the Ricky Simone fight. Ricky Simone's a wrestler, right? We can all agree he's a primary wrestler. Ricky Simone's out there hurting him with shots to the body, hitting him with knees, hitting him with straight rights to the body, hitting him with a couple of those hooks in combination, and again bothering Rob Font. And so I see Jose Aldo as one of the most prolific body punchers in the history of the UFC. He's got long body punches. He throws the right straight to the body. He throws the knees to the body. He throws the kicks to the body. He throws the kicks to the leg. Everybody who's saying that Jose Aldo doesn't throw kicks anymore, I disagree with you. Watch the Pedro Munoz fight again. He doesn't throw them at a crazy high volume, but he checks kicks, he retracts his leg, and he answers with his own kicks from time to time to keep you guessing. I think that was a fight where he needed to use less leg kicks. I think this is a fight where he needs to use more leg kicks. Rob Font, if he wants to jab, what's the one thing we know about jabbers? And frankly, what's the one thing we know about New England cartel guys? They get their legs kicked out from under them badly. And it happened to Calvin Kattar before. And I think that there's a very live possibility it could happen to Rob Font this weekend. Go back and watch Jose Aldo kick Peter Yan off his feet cleanly in their fight. I think it was more than once. The guy hits like a damn truck. And I think that when you look at what Jose Aldo can do, I don't think that he's getting enough credit and respect here as a plus 125 underdog. I haven't gotten to the window myself on a Aldo moneyline bet. I kind of wanted to get the best of it. I missed the line movement. He was plus 150. I saw the line trending up and up. I was like, ooh, maybe we can get even better number. I got a little greedy. Now the line's back to plus 128, best available on the market. So can I see a path for Font in this fight? Of course I can. He's a great fighter. And I think he's got probably the better 25-minute cardio at this point. Not to say he proved that he had elite 25-minute cardio in that Garbrandt fight. Again, I thought the fifth round was a little bit dicey at points, but I think that this is a fight where both guys are going to be similar sized. I don't think anybody's going to have a massive size advantage. I think that the speed advantage slightly goes to Aldo. And I think that in the early rounds, Aldo is live to finish this fight with body shots. And he's also live to catch Rob on one of these wrestling entries. Rob likes to wrestle to keep people guessing from time to time, and also when he gets hurt. And Jose Aldo, he doesn't break it out a lot. He's got like one submission to his name. I'm not rushing to the window to bet Aldo by submission, but Rob Font, it wasn't like he shot into the world's most dangerous guillotiner at 135 because he was having a great time and he wanted to see how he could do in his jiu-jitsu. It's because he got hurt badly by Pedro Munoz in the early going, and he was forced to shoot, and he got put away. I don't think Aldo's like a lights-out guillotine threat, but could I see him sprawling on that attempt like he has a million times before and then spinning behind him and choking him out? Yeah, I definitely could if he hurts Rob especially. And I think that this fight could play out a bunch of different ways, but if Aldo doesn't get old overnight, like I mentioned in my article for Roto Grinders, I think this is a good look for him. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight, and I think that there's a chance he could win the decision. Shouldn't make it there, but I think that our streak of main events going the distance, I hope you hear me knocking on wood, is coming to an end this weekend. I think that somebody's getting finished, whether it's Aldo in round 4 or, whether it's Rob Font in round 2. I think somebody's getting finished on Saturday night. And I really think that Jose Aldo might remind the world one more time who the king of Rio is with that body shot finish. He did it to Jeremy Stevens. He did it to Renato Moicano. I think that this is the kind of fight where he can hit Rob Font, make him panic a little bit, and chase him down with those body shots like an absolute lunatic. I really can just see it in my mind. So whether I'm right or wrong, I had a pretty strong lean on this matchup. I only got to a half unit on Aldo rounds 1, 2, 3 at plus 500. Aldo KO at plus 500. I don't hate either, but man, I might end up taking, a play on Aldo if the line comes back out a little bit. I'd like plus 135 as an entry point. I just don't know what to expect, man. I kind of feel like this is going to be a pick'em fight by fight time. Rob Font has performed ably as a favorite. That's the last thing I want to leave you guys with here. I have to say, I think he's 7-1 for a pretty good ROI. So not discounting the fact that the market, when they've put this guy in the favorite distinction, he's come through more often than not. But the archetype of a fighter that's beaten him is like a Brazilian banger with power that throws to the body and can negate some of the offensive grappling from Rob Font. So I think that on a number of levels, Jose Aldo is live in this fight. Gordo, how do you feel?
Well, I hate to be that guy, but I am going to have to leave a bit early. So I'm just going to leave you guys with this. First of all, make sure everyone's following, subscribe to, and liking the video here. Liam does an amazing job every single week, and I'm more than grateful to have him here. But this is a spot where I can't look past Jose Aldo. I think that I'm putting a bit too much stock in his round 5 record recently, but he's facing guys in Holloway, in Jan, guys who are just at the top level, and I haven't seen Font really prove that to me yet. Font uses his reach advantage and his jab perfectly against Cody Garbrandt. I don't see him doing the same thing here. I have not seen enough from Rob Font to want to bet him this week, and for that reason, I think it's dog or pass. On a DraftKings perspective, if you want to play a GPP line, get Aldo in there. If you want to play a cash line, I do think Font is a bit safer in terms of those later rounds in that cardio upside. However, I am going to pick Aldo to win this fight, but no bet for me yet. With that being said, unfortunately, I am going to have to run. I'm sorry for leaving a bit early, Liam. I have a very, very busy night with a friend's birthday. So you guys can find me at Gambles Gordo on Twitter and at Plays and Fade Sports. I just put out a DFS video, so make sure you guys check that out. And with that, Chance, I know you got a very, very, very good spot on this as well, so I'll make sure to come back to the video and listen to what you have to say. But thank you again for having me on, Liam, and I am out of here.
See you, Gordo. Have a good night, man.
All right, we are
Cheers,
back.
thank you.
Gordo is out, but I am in, thank goodness, or else we'd be leaving Chance all alone to man the ship here. Chance, how do you feel about this matchup, my friend?
Dude, I'm going to be honest. Looking at this fight originally, I really thought it was going to be on Aldo here a bit at first glance. And then I really just like going back and watching tape. I really think Font is going to piece up Aldo pretty bad here, to be honest. I think everything you said is true. And I think everything you said can be true, and Aldo still get pieced up. Like, I think he can work the body of Font a bit. But I think Font's hands are just on a different level, kind of like what I said with Fiziev, whatever. Yeah, dude, I really just like Font's hands. I think that jab is absolute money. And I think a guy like Aldo, I think his face is going to get hit repeatedly. And to be honest, I mean, all this talk about like rounds 1, 2, and 3 or Aldos and stuff like that, I hear a lot of that. It would not shock me if Font went out there and just 1-2'd Aldo and walked away and it was over. I think he packs a good punch. I think he hits pretty hard, a lot harder than people give him credit for, in my opinion. And I think what he did to Cody is, I think kind of people are looking past that a bit. Yeah, Cody did look bad. He did look bad, but it's always tough going back and saying that and saying like, well, Cody, it's not Font looking good, it's Cody looking bad. Maybe, but we got to see it happen again. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I rate that win pretty highly. I was on Font there, had a big bet on him there as well. And yeah, I just think at this stage in their careers, like, you're right. Aldo could chop the leg. He could get in and work the body. I just think that's going to be a bit tough, seeing the levels in the striking realm that, you know, Font's really leveled up since those fights against John Lineker in 2016, right? Like, you cannot tell me from fight to fight, he looks better and better. And I think that fight against Cody Garbrandt, sure, maybe it was Cody looking bad, but maybe, I mean, we can't take that away from Font, though. Font looked incredible. And, I mean, a guy's footwork, like, Cody's, like, hard to deal with. So, yeah, I mean, dude, I like Font. Personally, I'm going to be honest, I've seen a ton of sharp people on Aldo. And honestly, I've seen a ton of people that have no idea what they're talking about on Font, to be completely honest. So it scares me a little bit. But I personally max bet Font here. I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to trust what I see on tape. And like I said, everything you said, I don't necessarily disagree with. Aldo is someone historically that you want to back. That dude is a dog. He is someone that you want to get behind. And honestly, hot take, if he doesn't die round 1 in first 5 seconds against Conor McGregor, I think he probably beats him. But regardless, yeah, I mean, historically one of the greatest fighters of all time, and someone you don't really want to look to fade against often. But I think this is a great spot to do so. I think Font right now is on a different level. He's trending upwards. And I didn't really love what I saw from Aldo against Chito Vera, striking-wise, I would say. I really wasn't impressed because I don't rate Chito highly at all, really. that's a different conversation for a different day. I don't really rate him highly at all. But with that being said, yeah, I don't know. I just haven't really loved what I've seen from Aldo lately. And I really like Font's game, and I think he's really going to be able to piece up Aldo more than I think people are giving him credit for. People are just kind of looking past what Font's doing, but I think it's actually like incredible. I think he's one of the best boxers in the UFC, and by far has the best jab, in my opinion. And I think that stuff matters. But like you said, Aldo could leg kick him, and that could be a big fault to Font. But by the same token, I'm not someone who's just saying like Aldo doesn't leg kick anymore, but he's not going to it like we've seen in the past. And I don't think that's like a super reliable thing to go out there and say. And for me, if I'm betting Aldo, I have to be 100% sure that he's going to go out there and leg kick. And if I'm not, there's no way I can bet him at this price.
Fair
and
enough.
That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. And I don't think he's going to have any wrestling success either. Just from what I've seen on tape, I really don't mind Font's takedown defense. And if anyone grapples, I really wouldn't be shocked to see it be Font. I think he actually has some decent like grappling. Like I really don't think he's like that bad of a grappler. I think it's a bit underrated. So I think saying like most of the Aldo takes I see are, well, he's a veteran, he throws leg kicks, and that's going to be bad for Font, and then he could wrestle him. And I don't think, two of those three I don't think are true at all. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm a big Font guy, so that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. And I'll just tell you, man, I think that makes a lot of sense. When you look at their careers, it's clear that Font is on a bit of an upswing. It's clear that Jose is in the back nine of his career. He has a ton more professional experience, like you mentioned. He started fighting. I'm pretty sure Aldo was like fighting 18-0 or something, or 18-1, fighting Mark Hominick at the time that we saw Font make his amateur debut. But Font is a good boxer. Font is obviously going to be live in the striking portion. I couldn't agree with you more. He is underrated as a grappler, period. No ifs, ands, or buts from Rob Font there, because he's shown several intricate sweeps and also just a really good ability to stay safe on the ground. He'll lock up a Kimura and knock a minute off the clock and get back to his feet without taking damage. So that leaves him in a position to still win the round. And he's normally very good about getting back on his offense right away. So if he gets taken down, he will get up and go back to work, which I think is all good things for your bet. But, like you mentioned, I kind of had a different take. I was just seeing everybody talking about the brick head on Rob Font, and I agree. And if Aldo tries to headhunt him, he will not win, which is what Cody did. I think that if you instead try and pick apart his body, you have a better chance of beating him. I don't know if you noticed what I did or felt the same way about Rob having a little bit of softness to the body. Did you see that on tape at all?
Yeah, I definitely get what you're talking about. I just think from fight to fight, he's just leveling up on I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to seem. It could be an issue, possibly. I just think Aldo's gonna get stuck behind that jab at a pretty high clip. I think it's money, and I think that Aldo, to have any shot at winning this fight, in my opinion, has to chop the leg of Font. There is no other way around it. He has got to do that to be able to get inside on him and land those body shots. And personally, I just don't see that happening at a very high clip at this stage in his career. A few years ago, sure, it's a little bit different story. I take Aldo plus, 125, 2018, but we're not there right now. I think Font's just on the upswing. So
I'm totally with you, brother. Well, we did it, folks. There it is. We have made it through 15 fights on this card. I think it's 14, actually, with the Vandera fight being scrapped. But that is the breakdown, guys. We gave you a lot of bets, a lot of insights, all of our opinions, whether you like them, whether you're with us, whether you want to play our bets, whether you want to go the other way, you want to take the other side, you want to use our arguments to bolster your hardened opinion on the other side. God bless you. Good luck with your action. It is all of us good guys, people like me, people like Chance, people like Gordo, that are trying to, find these good angles, find a good spot for the card. It's all of us, people in the chat as well, versus these bookies. And I'm hoping that we're going to get back on the horse this week with some great bets. I'm very thankful that my man Chance and my man Gordo were able to stop by today. So Chance, let the people know where they could find you on the way out, my friend.
Dude, just Chance Wagers on Twitter. Yeah, just follow me over there. I have a Patreon service. It's $10 a month. Also tonight, I'm pretty big on Emmanuel Sanchez tonight against Jeremy Kennedy. I placed a pretty big bet on him. So if anyone wants that, that's what I'm on tonight, as well as a couple others. But Chance Wagers on Twitter. Dude, it was a good time, man. This was fun for sure.
The pleasure's all mine, brother, and glad to have you on the show. Glad you were able to make a debut here. We really appreciated your insights, man. You got a great voice, and you got a great mind for the game. So always a pleasure talking fights with you on or off the air, my friend. Just want to say to everybody who's been watching with us, rocking live from the beginning, appreciate you all. Thank you guys for what you do. Thank you for supporting the show. Before we get out of here, go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and get subscribed to the channel. Tell a friend about it if you haven't already, because we're trying to do something special here. Come on with a different rotating panel each week. Break down these fight cards. Try and find some good looks, good angles. So appreciate you all. And last thing on the way out, Prize Picks, guys, all the information you need is in that description box below. If you decide to get in on the fun, then I would look in and use that promo code Liam for a deposit match 100% up to $100. With all that being said, we will close it out. This has been another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. Come back next week. We're going to have all the same fun again. God bless you all and enjoy the fights.